Hello everyone, I'm Joseph Giunta, the music director and conductor of the Des Moines Symphony, and welcome to the Listening Room. I'm very excited to speak about the next Des Moines Symphony concerts, which are going to be held on March 14th and 15th in the Civic Center. And these programs we're calling Reflection. There's three pieces on these programs, and they all have very peaceful and reflective moments about them. And I think it makes a very cohesive and exciting musical program, not only inspiring for the orchestra, but also for all of you in the audience. I think you'll find it very appealing and really beautiful music. The program opens with the wonderful composer, Mozart. We all know that Mozart wrote 41 symphonies, and we're going to play for you the 38th Symphony, which has not been played by the Des Moines Symphony since 1947, a long time ago. Now, Mozart was 30 years old, and he had not written a symphony for 3 years when he began to work on his 38th. Now, this was just right after the Marriage of Figaro opera had been composed and premiered in Vienna, and it was a huge success. And however, his popularity towards the end of that year had started to wane a bit. But Mozart's opera was the rage of Paris at the same time, by the end of around 1786. So he was invited by a friend to visit Prague. He accepted, and he brought with him Costanza and his dog and a whole contingency of donors and friends. And believe me, he was treated like a rock star, and he loved every minute of it in Prague. There were parties and castles and elegant dinners and soirees and just a wonderful social contingent that went along with some concerts that he attended. He also conducted his own opera, of course, The Marriage of Figaro, and people loved it, as he expected. And he also brought to Prague a gift, his 38th Symphony. He carried the score and the parts along with him, and made arrangements to have this piece played. So it was premiered as a gift to the city of Prague and all its people that loved him so much. And it was given the premiere there, and it was a wonderful premiere with many, many standing ovations. Now, this piece opens with a really slow introduction, similar to what maybe a Haydn symphony would, and it's followed immediately by a wonderful allegro, fast section, with great spirit and great happiness and joy. The slow movement is quite peaceful and reflective and calm, and it's about the closest to storytelling without words, next to opera, of course. It's a marvelous movement, and it's close to the style of opera, with the way he writes the instrumental themes for the violin and oboes and so on. And it's really lyric and sublime, and I believe it's the heart and soul of the entire piece. It's a beautiful second movement. And then finally, the finale is a celebration, very quick fashion. It has a wide range of emotions, and it really takes a virtuoso orchestra to pull off this movement properly and to get exactly to what Mozart intended with this real frolic. And I know that your Des Moines Symphony will certainly be up to the challenges. So this is something I know all look forward to, as I do. Now, following that, we're going to go to Czechoslovakia and play one of their wonderful composers, the tone poem, the Moldau, which is by Bedřich Smetana. Smetana did for Czechoslovakia regionally what Dvorak did for Czechoslovakia in terms of the world, international fame. As we know, Dvorak came to New York and was the head of the predecessor of the Juilliard School, even came to Iowa for a short summer to do some work there in Spillville, and vacation and whatnot. But Smetana was like the second great Czechoslovakian composer of the time, and he wrote some beautiful music, which includes the tone poem, the Moldau, which is the piece that we're going to play for you. This piece begins, well, how the river begins, with two little streams that meet, a cold stream and a warm stream that meet far north of Prague. And this is signified by the two flutes and two clarinets that play in the beginning. And eventually this morphs into a gorgeous and mighty river with these two streams congealing into one, and then the mighty flow of the river is exemplified by a beautiful theme played by the full orchestra. As the river flows down through Prague, you'll hear musically a joyous wedding dance on one of the banks of the river. You'll see and experience a beautiful midnight sheen on the river with the moonlight reflecting off the river, with beautiful, beautiful scene there, quiet and reflective. There's a violent, after that, violent section that represents the St. John Rapids. And then finally, the movement comes to a close when the High Castle is seen overlooking the Prague. It's a musical tone poem at its best, and it's one of the most famous pieces in all the orchestral repertoire. And I know you'll really look forward to this, as I am. The Moldau by Beatrix Smetana. And finally, Stella Chen, the winner of the 2019 Queen Elizabeth competition in Brussels and an Avery Fisher Career Grant recipient, will perform Beethoven's one and only violin concerto. And what a piece this is. This piece was written in 1806, but after the first performance, absolutely became obscure, with very few performances that followed. It's hard to believe. But then, about maybe 35 or so years later, in 1844, there was a 12-year-old violinist, child prodigy, whose name was Joseph Joachim. And he played the piece with the London Philharmonic with Felix Mendelssohn conducting. And this piece was electric. And this performance was the one that brought the piece finally to fame throughout not only just the UK, but Europe and then throughout the world. Now, just as an aside, the violinist that I just spoke about, Joseph Joachim, went on to become one of the greatest violinists ever to this day. 35 years later, from when he played the Beethoven Concerto, Brahms wrote his one and only violin concerto for Joachim, so you can see what kind of talent this was. Now, the Beethoven Concerto was different than any concerto that was written to date. He had already written 4 symphonies. They were very successful, and out of this, he kind of gained a great confidence, and he wanted to create a work of great length that would sustain the conversations between a soloist and the orchestra and keep the audience involved and engaged as well. It was challenging for him, but he did just that, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful piece, one of the great violin concertos of all time. The first movement is broad and elegant and majestic, as you would imagine with Beethoven. The second movement is very brief compared to the first. It's a theme and variations, and it's just full of beautiful music and charm. And the last movement is a peppy rondo. There's a theme, and then there's this contrasting section, and then the theme comes back, and another contrasting section, and so on. It's very simple, and the tune is very catchy. It's kind of reminiscent of a dance music of the time. It's wonderfully memorable, and I think it's a guarantee that you'll be whistling this tune on your way home from the concert. So I know you'll want to look forward to this very much, with Stella Chen performing the Beethoven Violin Concerto. And I also want to mention that Stella will be here all week in Des Moines. She'll be working with our more than 500 families, the Academy students, doing a little workshop with our youth orchestras. She'll be doing some master classes in a lot of the school systems in Des Moines public schools and around the region. And this will all culminate in these wonderful performances of the Beethoven Violin Concerto on March 14th and 15th. So you're not going to want to miss this wonderful music played by Stella Chen and your fantastic Des Moines Symphony. The concert's at the Civic Center, and ticket information is available on our website, which is dmsymphony.org, dmsymphony.org. And if you'd like to hear some of my favorite recorded performances of this music I just spoke about, click on the link below. Happy listening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you at the Symphony. Bye-bye.